Kind of checking in on everybody today and see how everybody's feeling. Everybody's doing. So I'm just kind of connecting in with everybody. So we're all in the same sacred space. One of the reasons these webinars seem to work is because it's my joy to share and reflect back to you what I'm experiencing on the level of consciousness as the work is being done. So it's good to have that reflection. So I'm just kind of feeling into this nice sacred space that we're creating here. Beforehand, I was sort of connecting into the whole field of divine creation and, experiencing the presence of all the great beings of creation. And of course, it's always nice to do a little prayer to them. We'll do that first as we get started here. So we have the presence of sort of the fullness of intelligence as it's expressed in all the great ascended masters and archangels and saints and devas and devis, all the mother goddesses. And I was thinking it would be sweet to, and I'm also seeing there seems to be an activation. Oh, it's just starting already. I guess the webinar is starting. An activation of a lot of cosmic energies. I can feel the cosmic energies. I guess we just a few minutes ago passed the point where the sun turned from being at its peak to starting to come down for the second half of the year. That was sometime within the hour of 1 o'clock. So those cosmic energies are at their full value, the fullest value of the sun. Hello, welcome. More people arriving. Yeah, I'm just kind of right now just sitting and enjoying seems to be kind of like an activation or waking up or an integration of the cosmic energies of creation into our sacred space that we're all sitting in together here for this webinar. And as each of you, I'm seeing the little ticker come off here as people are continuing to enter the webinar. Hello, welcome. Hello, welcome. As we enter, there's an integration of the cosmic energies. There's a ascended master who is, I know the name Elohim, who is also known as the consciousness that flows from the center of our galaxy through to all the stars and places in the galaxy. And that great being has a tremendous amount of knowledge and experience with regards to cosmic events, such as our solstice that just occurred. And I'm just feeling the most lovely, luscious energy is flowing in response. It's interesting, I don't know, those of you who've done the digestive mastery or any of the other processes that I've presented on my website, some of the freebies and so forth, it's like creating a self-referral loop. We send the awareness out to connect with some aspect of creation, and then it reflects back. And that reflection back is just the most lovely, warm, there's a warm kind of very yummy energy reflecting back right now. From Elohim is like saying, I'm here. Giving that back. One of the things I wanted to take a look at today was the opportunity, it's 2 o'clock, I guess we're starting. How to help everybody to open up and wake up their inner senses. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start, and more people can continue arriving as they do. It's good to see everybody. Thank you for all being here. I decided I'd like to start with just a little, kind of moment of gratitude. And accepting and receiving all that divine energy into our sacred space that we've created here. So thank you to the Mother of Creation, the birther of all the universes, for your presence at this healing, at this webinar. Thank you for your love and compassion. Thank you for your adoration for each person who's present live with us today, and for all those who will see any parts of this webinar as time goes on. And thank you to all the expressions of the divine at the highest level of divinity, all the great beings of creation for their presence, angels and saints and ascended masters, etc. Okay, lots. We've got the armies. Thank you to every person attending this webinar, and through them to their entire ancestry. And anybody viewing this webinar at any time in creation, and to their ancestry. And then to the presence of God in everyone, for blessing our time together with efficiency and effectiveness, and allowing us to concisely isolate the most powerful point in each area in which we look, and address it in such a way as to expand knowledge, understanding, experience, and technologies to empower every person watching this webinar to master their own healing process and heal themselves. Be self-sufficient and self-sustaining. Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you. Well begun is half done. Okay, so this webinar is an extension of the YouTube videos that I posted online. If you've seen them all, that's wonderful. Congratulations for you. If you haven't, no worries. I'm just happy to have you with me anyway. We're going to discuss those points, and I'm really interested in your questions and comments, because my intention was to run the YouTube video series as a kind of a course or a class. And it's nice if the person who's running the class gives out some information. It's nice to kind of see where people are at, those who view that, and where their areas of understanding are, and if there are areas where we have more questions. And thank you, I do see questions coming in. That's awesome. So yes, okay, so I have a couple questions already. Thank you to those of you doing that. The first question is from Laura. Laura, thank you for joining us. I'm honored that you're here. It means a lot to me. Thank you. And the question is, am I going to do a lot of healings? And the answer is absolutely. That's my intention, is that we're like mostly healings and not a lot of chit-chat. Thank you. Answered that lie. And then from Monica. Oh, and I'm just getting a lot of love from Monica. Thank you. And Klaus, thank you for joining me from Europe, from Switzerland. Thank you. Okay, so the fundamental principle of the YouTube video series is that the field of creation ranges from unmanifest, absolute, infinite being all the way up to the gross material level of creation. And that viewing an individual, we're talking about healing here, so viewing an individual from the perspective that they are a continuum of expression of intelligence from absolute to relative, we can go in and concisely identify the areas where imbalances begin. And then from the point where the imbalance starts in the system, like the seed of the imbalance, address it from the level of the seed, and then unwind it and allow it to move out of the system. So that's the basic principle. And we looked at that in three areas: from the level of the physiology itself, from the level of the imbalances, and from the level of the healing modalities or light medicines or presence of God energies that come into create balance in the physiology. Okay, another question. Okay. Nice, very deep question here from Alice and Patrick. And that question is, how do you balance healing and integration? How do you balance healing and integration? Thank you for this amazing question. So the answer is that healing involves the entire process of really, first attention goes into the area where it needs to be, that needs to be addressed. And then the imbalance is loosened up and it's released from the system. And then the energy of God or being, pure consciousness, the balanced form of that space, of whatever area we're looking at, its ideal space, its full potential, comes in. And at that point, integration occurs. This is where the integration occurs, is that we're bringing in or integrating the light medicines or the energies of the divine into the area that was previously traumatized or imbalanced, etc. There is another point having to do with integration as well, and that is that, and maybe this is what you were really aiming at, is to make a move like that, to bring your attention to a spot that is unhappy or suffering, and to apply the attention in such a way that whatever is causing that suffering is released, and then to elicit a response from the divine, that divine energy comes in to replace. It requires an integrated move of one's own self. In other words, just thinking it isn't sufficient. That it is the whole being moves. There's a kind of integration of the physicality, because the body is going to go through a change if there's an illness somewhere, and the illness has to be released. So the body is participating, and that's integrating with the conscious mind, which is thinking, gee, I'd really like this, in this infection to go away, or this cancer to go away, or whatever it is. And then the being, which is the presence of God in the individual, who is in the position, that part of the individual is in the position to really activate up the subtle responses in the system, particularly at very fine levels of physiology. So, a total integration or a complete integration of being is required, but every time a person goes through that process, it is like practice, and they get better and faster and stronger at doing it. Because actually, we are constantly functioning at that level. It's just that we're not always completely aware that we're functioning at that level. And as an example, if you look around you, every single thing in your environment has been created by your consciousness. I have been created by your consciousness. Everything is an expression of some manifesting process that your being has gone through. And that means your big being has been involved in that process of manifesting. So we're doing it all the time. Oh, thank you. More questions. More questions. Oh, this is exciting. Okay, so next question. How long does it take for the recipient to experience the full effect of the healing? I feel as though I haven't really experienced much yet. What should I be noticing? When will I notice it? Okay, so we haven't really done any straight-on healings at this point, so you may not be experiencing a lot of healings on that level because we haven't actually done them yet. But everybody's different, and the divine level of your being always experiences the whole thing right away. And the body tends to be the slowest. If we're looking at that range again from, unmanifest to manifest, at the finest level of creation of yourself, there's a clear awareness of all the healing that's taking place. But as we come up to a more superficial levels, the thinking mind and the senses of perception, it can take longer for that area of the being to wrap itself around a healing that first takes place on a subtle level, and then it works its way up to the surface. We know the physiology is the most dense, so it takes the longest to integrate the healing. But even then, sometimes healings, when the channel's clear and all the groundwork has been set for that particular transformation, then it can happen actually very quickly, and the body can release stuff very quickly. Also, did that answer your question, dear Anonymous? Okay, so the next question is, God bless, time for a healing yet, as an example? And I think that's like a really cool idea. So let's do that. All right. So one of the first things I was thinking would be really nice for everybody to get is, since the Course discusses the range of the physiology from manifest to manifest and those 8 layers of the physiology, I thought it would be nice to work with some of the subtler layers of the physiology where we're laying a foundation for you to become self-sufficient in your own ability to heal. So I thought it would be nice to go into the deepest layers first, to work our way from the ground up, because this is how you build a building, right? We want to start at the deepest, most foundational level and work our way up to the surface. So I was thinking going into the celestial and causal levels of the being. And I'm cueing off of all of you. So what we're going to do first is we're going to take a little dive into each person's sacred space. I'm not going to dive into your sacred space, but the being, the God presence in each of us is moving the attention into the place or location within each one of us where we have a relationship with ourself, basically. It is that place where one's own inner self-referral loops of awareness are most active and most lively. And we can think of it as this kind of a sacred garden. And already what's happening is, first I'm seeing, I saw, okay, lots of things, everybody different. But first thing that happened was waves of energy were coming into that area. This is at the celestial level of the physiology, by the way, which is the deepest level. The second thing was, I was seeing for some people, pain is being released. Pain. So that's really good to let go of that. And the way it releases is very simple. Awareness feels the imbalance, and as awareness feels it, our awareness has a quality of purity in it. It is a manifestation of the most divine level of our own self. And the imbalance, in this case, the pain, it has a kind of a low vibration. So the awareness comes and it meets with that low vibration. And they kind of go into kind of a sacred dance together, where one is pulling in its direction and the other pulls in its direction. And what happens is the pushing and pulling of the awareness with the imbalance, which is that lower vibration, that pain, creates energy. It makes like a kind of friction. And the energy there, the energy that's produced, okay, and so I'm just watching that as that energy wave is increasing. It's increasing and increasing, and as that does, the energy wave increases, it transforms or transmutes consciousness. It literally shape-shifts the consciousness at that level of the being to take on a form that is godlike, that is pure, that is innocent and sweet. Right. And what I'm seeing for some people is that pain's origin was biomemory from ancestors, judgments, expectations. Maya also from ancestors. It's okay. It's okay. So gently with the ancestors. Gently with the ancestors. I think we need to expand the circle of this healing to the ancestors now. So we're opening up those ancestral archives. The being is going into the ancestral archives and activating. And when I say opening up or activating, what I mean is that the attention of the presence of God in each one of us and all of us collectively in the sacred space, we're kind of moving in tandem, is moving into that area. And as it moves in, it wakes it up. That's what awareness does, right? When you wake up in the morning, the awareness comes, oh, I'm awake. So it wakes up, yes, in that area. And the first thing I'm feeling are waves of love flowing. Beautiful, all the hearts, all the sweet hearts flowing into the sacred ancestral archive. And as that flows, also the masters are beginning, they're beginning their tarpanum. They're beginning to offer the tarpanum to everybody who is listening and to all the ancestors. And that just creates such beautiful receptivity and understanding and softening. And I can literally see places where there were almost like calcifications in the nervous systems, or little hard knots in the nervous systems. And as this is happening for the ancestors, it's also happening for us. And it's also undoing the tendency or propensity in our physical bodies to take on those little hard knots, those little calcifications in the physical nervous system. You know, everybody responds differently to stress, right? So some people, they get a headache, and somebody else, they feel tired, and somebody else eats, and somebody else, all different. And the tendency to respond to stress in one way or another, a lot of times is passed down genetically. So the other thing I'm seeing, very beautiful, are these, oh, thank you. And again, Elohim is helping us out here, but they're really ancient codes for activating areas of the DNA, which have, over the long course of time, become inactive as a byproduct of layers of epigenetic silencing of the DNA. So these codes are being received by everyone, and this actually leads us into the next part of this healing I was thinking of really would love to offer everybody here, is that, there's a lot going on, but we're double checking back on the celestial body, and then we're going into the causal body. This is what I wanted to say, was going into the causal body, because everybody should receive all this information, not only through their God presence, and the God presence receives. And this also helps to answer that last question, which I've already posted, so I can't remember it exactly, from Anonymous, I think. The God presence receives, and it knows it has received information. But for our conscious mind to integrate that information, in order to use the information, it's not necessary to go through and pick it apart piece by piece. But when you need the information, it will be there. This is the nature of a download. So for the causal body, there's a vast wealth of knowledge and information. And some of it has already come in from a celestial destination, celestial locations. We have support. And that information has to do with these ancient codes for the DNA. And for those of you who are comfortable with that download, you can know that there are more information is coming in on that right now with regards to, looks like mathematical relationships between DNA as it manifests on Earth versus DNA as it manifests in other locations around our galaxy, and similarities and dissimilarities, and very importantly, universalities. So what that means is there's certain aspects of the structure of our DNA in our bodies which is universally present in all the other locations where life forms at this kind of level of physicality that we have are present. Those are physical bodies. Right. And what they're showing is that in the DNA, everyone is receiving recipes that will be used by their causal bodies, or receiving in the God presence. Recipes or formulas for producing various kinds of self-made medicines. And there's a whole family of medicines whose base ingredient is love. And these medicines can be applied to the physiology at a very fine level. So clearing meridians from the causal body through to the physical body, so that medicines or rasayanas, as they're traditionally called, rasayanas, are applied. and can be integrated to the physical level of the body. And so the recipes or formulas come in, and then they're made at a very fine level of the causal body. And they're made with a combination of pure energy as it's received over the gap from the unmanifest level of being to the manifest level. And then that combines with actions produced by Devic structures in the physiology, particularly in the heart chakra. So there's a Deva that resides in the heart chakra, and that Deva activates and interfaces with these pure energies as they come through from the absolute level of being, and they produce this family of rasayanas or medicines which have love as their baseline. And this medicine goes into the DNA directly. Into the DNA directly. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we're just feeling that shift now as it's entering the DNA. Very nice. Very good, everybody. And it seems that by pouring or applying this love energy that we're producing into our own DNA, so we're creating a self-referral loop, right? And all energy healing is about creating self-referral loops, as far as I can tell. It can be reduced back to that, or resolved back to that principle of self-referral loops. There we go. There are the loops and the loops and the loops. Very nice. So as that's happening, it's creating a resonation in all of our physiologies, all of us, and I'm saying that all the way through to everybody ever watching this, and it's expanding out into the universe, into our galaxy, into other galaxies as well, and it's communicating. Our DNA, intelligence in our DNA and transformations in the DNA communicate to the whole field of life force in the whole creation. And it's creating an awakening through that field. And thank you to Elohim for helping us out with that one. Thank you for Mother Lakshmi, who resides in the heart, for helping us out with that. Thank you to everybody's incredible God presence for bringing that up, because when we started it, I didn't know how it was going to come out. It's a reflection of you. Beautiful. Thank you. Upgrading the DNA and blessing all the ancestors. Thank you for that question from my husband. Okay, next question. You often speak about seeing where disturbances are located, and you know what to do to resolve it. How can we develop that seeing? Yes, that was one of the things I wanted to share with you. And ability and capacity to know how to resolve the issue. Great question, Mary. Great question. Okay, so the first step in the process is attention. It's about the flow of attention. So attention, usually, most people, we begin in this little earthly body, that our attention flows out through our senses of perception, eyes and ears and nose and every touch, into the field. So it flows in a particular direction. Oh, sorry. Okay. Should have taken the phone off the hook. Next webinar, take the phone off the hook. Checklist. Anyway, so attention or awareness flows out through the senses. However, in the process of healing, we need the attention to flow in. Now, this question can have two parts, because there's a difference between if we're healing ourselves or if we're healing somebody else. A slight difference. So let's just talk in terms of the self, basically, because that's the fundamental. Did you take that off the hook? Yeah. Oh, thank you. Smart. Okay. So healing the self, awareness has to move inward. And there are parts of the brain that are connected to and associated with the inward move of awareness. The hypothalamus, in particular, for instance, is specifically designed just to kind of monitor what's going on physically. It's keeping track of your heartbeat and your lungs and your blood flow and your digestion and all that. But between the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland, which is the overseer or administrator of the endocrine system. Between the pituitary gland, and I think there's something else in front of that, whose name I don't know. Forgive me, I'm not actually a medical person. I'll have to look that one up on Google. And in those gaps, there is the ability, the connections between those organs. And in that area, this is the area that's responsible for the inward flow of awareness. The whole limbic system, actually, I'm seeing it back to the pineal gland as well. So the inward flow of awareness to feel not only what's happening inside the body physically, but also what's happening at deeper levels inside, those subtle levels of the physiology. So at this time, we're just going to go ahead and do an activation for that level of that area of the physiology. And this is where consciousness up here in the Uranyaka chakra is responsible for awareness, the expression of awareness. Consciousness expresses itself as the energy or power of awareness. So everyone's Uranyaka chakra, and I'm seeing several things happening. One is, many of you have guides or are now receiving the presence of angels who are very helpful. Those who would wish to receive this presence of angels who are very, very helpful in allowing to show us or draw our attention to areas that require a look-see. Sometimes, if we're not used to looking in a certain direction, it's like we don't have the habit of it. And so as this activation is taking place, and what I'm seeing is the activation is happening between the God presence, again, self-referral loop here. You've got your God presence, which is shining. Divine Mother is up above, and she's shining her light into your God presence. The God presence, which is kind of like your personal God, as compared to the great big God. And that opening, and then this Paramatma light, white and gold Paramatma light, is shining from the God presence down into this area, into the Uranyaka chakra area, and activating and enlivening it. And so, so sweetly. And in some people, I'm seeing the energy go so, so, so delicately, just like I almost can't talk. We're clearing fear for some people. There's also a lot of discordant feelings clearing in that area. There, everybody's going to feel better. Some of those discordant feelings and some of that fear was left from past lives. You know, sometimes when people are sensitive, it can be a little harder for them because the rest of the world isn't always that sensitive. So when we're opening up and awakening this area of the being, you know, it's important that stability and strength come in at the same time, so that when we're dealing in a world that's not always receptive to our perceptions or understanding of them, that we can still fit in nicely, so that we can find a way to honor our own experience thoroughly without making anybody else feel out of place. So we're going to get some stabilizing forms are coming in. And it's interesting, I'm seeing, I usually take notes when I'm meeting with people individually, I'm seeing a variety of matrices, but particularly and surprisingly to me, Tree of Life matrix coming into the Uranyaka chakra. Tree of Life. Any others? Looks like 32-point matrix, 64-point matrix. Thank you. I'm saying thank you to my dear ones. They're part of that deal. Okay. And stabilizing. And also it looks like the auric field of the Uranyaka chakra is also getting some stabilizing structure. And there are other self-made rasayanas or medicines which are coming into this area, which are going to be very, very helpful for you to kind of keep the awareness sort of very fluid and soft and smooth, so that as you look through your regular senses, You also start to enjoy the perception of the energy structures within objects. And again, this is something that there's a little doing that's involved here, and that is just that as these experiences start to become more and more frequent, and you start to notice them more. Part of it, as I mentioned before, it was a habit. We cleared some habits and memory patterns of not noticing. For a lot of us, we kind of blocked up. We 3Ms, clearing out of this area as well. We blocked off that area because it didn't seem like there was a lot of use in seeing energy patterns, because, you know, it doesn't help you, I don't know, be successful in the relative. For some reason, we're told it doesn't help you be successful in the relative. It actually does, but it hasn't been honored for, you know, much of the past century or so. That's okay. That's okay. Even the healings can go back in time. And some people are receiving this healing for their ancestors too. So that's really beautiful and really sweet. Thank you. Okay. So I just want to make sure I answer that question. And Mary, you can let me know if that really seemed to really answer it. All right. The second part of the question was, how do you know what to do to resolve? Okay. So the thing is that your God presence knows. Your God presence always knows how to resolve. Really identifying or locating the imbalance in the first place is like 90% of the work. Once awareness has started getting used to learning how to move inward, an exercise you can do to help enhance this process is at night when you're falling asleep. That's one of my favorite times to do this kind of thing. As a mom, that's when I'm like not bothered by, no one's asking me for anything. But anytime you have some quiet time, of course, if you don't have kids. But one of the reasons falling asleep time is good is because the eyes are closed. And when the eyes are closed, awareness already naturally, automatically tends to go inward. And then the other thing about that is when the eyes are closed and one starts to drift off to sleep, awareness naturally, spontaneously, and innocently becomes very subtle. It moves away from the conscious thinking level of the mind and it moves down into more abstract levels of the mind. So that process is happening anyway at that time. But a little exercise, if anyone's interested in adding this or doing it ever, is to, at that time, do some scans of the body. Just let your awareness kind of travel around inside your body and see what you see. Find out what you see. And if you have trouble falling asleep, you will find that as you're looking around in your body, energetically, you're kind of feeling how the energy in the body is feeling. That what you'll find is if there's a blockage in the energy somewhere, that bringing your attention to that area where the blockage is starts to soften up the blockage and cause it to be released from the system. And as it releases, you'll find that sleep comes much more quickly and easily. The God presence knows how to do it, but again, the mechanics of that are fairly spontaneous once the awareness gets into the spot that needs to be addressed. And it's, again, that dynamic that I mentioned before, that you've got the awareness, which is on a very kind of pure resonance, pure energy frequency, with the, like, say, in this case, there's a blockage somewhere in the system, somewhere in the physiology, which is disallowing sleep. And as awareness goes onto it, they start to exert their own influence on each other, and there's a kind of a push and pull that takes place. And that push and pull creates energy. And the energy spontaneously allows for the imbalance to be released. Part of the reason that happens is because our awareness is just watching it. There's a kind of watching and witnessing effect from the level of awareness. And that watching and witnessing allows the process to occur in the most natural, spontaneous, and innocent way. And that's what we want. If, for example, you've got the pushing and pulling going on, and you're like rooting for one side, yay, go pure awareness, boo, no good, imbalance, like that. If we do that, then what we get is the process starts to not go completely spontaneously and innocently. So it's better to allow our awareness to sit beneath the process and just witness it. No expectations, no intentions, because it is the nature of creation to want to move those energies toward the light. It is the nature, the universe is expanding. It's an expanding universe. So all the laws of nature that give rise to the continuous growth of knowledge and technology and plants and stars and everything, is that energy is overseeing that process. So in a way, we don't want to get in the way of the process. We just want to let it do what it wants to do. Like that last healing. I mean, I didn't know what the healing was going to do. I mean, we went in, the awareness went in, we started looking around, then something came up, and then that was addressed, and something else came up, and then that was, and I was just reporting. So I was sitting at the witnessing point, looking at it happening and explaining what I was seeing as it was going. I hope that answered the question, Mary. Thank you. And that was a really long answer, guys. Please forgive me. I'll try to, there's only 2 more questions, so we're okay so far. But anyway, I want to leave room for other people too, of course. The last webinar wiped me out. I had to lay down afterwards. It was amazing. Oh, Laura, you're so sweet. Oh my God. So yeah, sometimes that happens. And I think that kind of brings us back to the integrating part of process. When you're used to working on these finer levels of creation and your God presence is really engaged, then what happens is, if you have a chance to, after the webinar, to those of you who are in Europe are probably going to bed after the webinar, so that's perfect. If you have a chance to, to lay down and close the eyes and really rest, then all that information, all that knowledge integrates really quickly and really efficiently into the system. And you'll find that you'll wake up after a rest like that and you'll find that you have made already yourself quite a lot of changes within your own being. Laura, I'm glad that I could have been of service to you. Thank you for that question. Very sweet. Okay, Christy. Hi, Christy. Christy and Company. Christy and Company. Double checking that all is safe. Oh, okay. So this is a personal question from Christy. And Okay, so Christy's question has to do with it has to do with not taking on, in this group, we have our little sacred space, and not taking on imbalances from other people in the sacred space. It's a really interesting question. So first of all, I'd like to say that before we ever started this webinar, even before I came online, like, around 1 o'clock or so, I started preparing for the webinar. And at that time, I already cleared the space that we would be in. And I'm not saying that I personally cleared it, but, I had the intention to bring my awareness into the space where this webinar would be taking place, and make sure that everything was safe and sacred, and that the whole area was completely surrounded by hosts and hosts of angels, and completely blessed and completely sound. However, each person should be responsible to be self-referral too. And that's, in a way, that's each of our responsibility, because everything we're experiencing is literally a reflection of our own being. So I am your reflection. I am your reflection. And I am reflecting what I am perceiving in this situation back to you. So, and also remember, when there is a soul, when there is a child, an unborn child coming into the picture, these souls are huge. They are powerful. They are powerful enough to fuel the whole thing. It's amazing. It's amazing what happens within the physiology of a mother who's bearing a child. All these huge devas of creation have brought themselves down into this very, very tiny space, and they're manifesting every little part of that physiology. And the level or degree of of just powerful God energy is unstoppable. It's unquenchable. It is very close to the very earliest energies that were present when the universe began. And that building is taking place on such a high level. This is what I'm seeing. And it is my perception, Christy, that the work that we're doing in this webinar with, let me tell you, I have the list over here, some of the sweetest people on earth and some of the most spiritually dedicated, absolute saints, that this is it's fun. Babies having fun, babies playing. You know, there are a lot of angels right now who are actually playing with the baby spirit, in the waves of all the energy fluctuations and changes that are part of this particular healing session. So it's actually very interesting. There is, when I was a child, I lived in Australia, and we lived with the Aborigines in the outback. And my father was studying their kinship systems, because the kinship systems among native Aborigines is extremely complex. And there's a relationship called between the grandfather and the grandson. And it's called big brother, little brother. Only the grandfather, he's a little brother. Well, so when they get together, the little guy gets to call all the shots, and the grandpa kind of follows along, you know? That's what's happening. The angels are playing big brother, little brother with the baby, and the baby's getting to go, I want to do this and I want to do that. And the angels are, okay, what do you want to do? It's very sweet. Thank you for the question, Christy. You're so beautiful. You're so precious. Thank you. Okay, another question. Patrick and Alice. Thank you, Patrick and Alice. Hi, Dorothy. Do you use colored light healing? Some people use violet light to clean spaces, or themselves or others. Yes, Alice, my understanding is that the use of colored light, particularly violet, like the violet flame, is that actually someone knocking at my door? Sorry. If they knock again, maybe we'll do something. Is there somebody actually knocking at the door? Like, sorry, guys. We're kind of a small operation, actually, at this point. Maybe someday I'll be in some kind of fancy studio, but at the moment. All right. Anyway. So consciousness takes on light qualities of different rays or colors of light at the causal level of physiology. I'm just looking to get a verification on this, because I don't work extensively with colored lights, although I do notice that there are certain kinds of light medicines which are various colors. And there is a light medicine matrix, which has the whole spectrum of colored lights in it, colored light medicines. Matrices are for stability in physiology. I'm just looking for downloading new information for everybody. Right, so the violet color is, my understanding is that some of this origin comes from the, there's a group on the northwest coast of America. It was a church that was created by Mark and Elizabeth Clare Prophet. And my dear friend Nick, who's watching, I believe, probably has the name of that church on the tip of his tongue. The Universal Triumphant. I can't remember the name of the church, sorry. But anyway, they had downloaded from the Ascended Masters this violet flame decree, and this violet light, which is a light of protection that some people do. They say this little prayer, and they surround themselves in violet flame light, and it protects them. And that's certainly one way to use the consciousness. Pure consciousness comes out first. When it first comes out, it doesn't really have a lot of attributes. It just is. It just is. And when it moves up to the causal level of physiology, then it starts to get directed into specific directions. But my experience is it doesn't really take on colors that we think of like colors of the aura until it comes up to that level of the astral body. As it starts to come and interface, there's a gap between the astral level of the creation and the astral field and the emotional level, the physiology, between those two. And that's about where, when those who have refined perception to perceive colors and people's auras, and so that's about where they're seeing those colors. Colors can also be colors we're thinking of in terms of visual perception, but anything, any of these energies can be perceived and oriented toward any of the senses. So it could be, you know, what I perceive as a color blue energy, someone else might perceive as a kind of a feeling, and a cool feeling or something, and someone else might hear it as a frequency or sound, a pitch. Oh, time for another healing. Yahoo! Okay, good. Sounds good to me. I'm all down for that. I hope that answered your questions. If I'm not answering anybody's questions or they still are not sure, just let me know. Right, so I'm looking down, Laura. Laura asked time for another healing, and I'm looking down at my paper, and I'm seeing that I wrote in big letters to clear the gap between the astral and the emotional level of the physiology. So I guess, having said that, that was our cue. Laura, extremely intuitive right there. So let's just go into that gap for everybody and just see what's there. We're going to go in and see what we have to yes, right away. Right away. Okay, okay. So the first thing I'm seeing is a collection. We're right here in the gap now between the astral body and the emotional body. I'm seeing some discordant feelings present. It looks like some despair and sadness. And again, for pretty much everybody online today, I'm experiencing this deeply connected into deeper levels of the physiology, especially down here at the spirit level of the physiology, spirit body. So when we're talking spirit body, we're talking past lives, or the range of the journey of the soul from the beginnings of creation through to the collapse back into singularity. So in the spirit body, in the spirit body, in the spirit body, in the spirit body. One of the things I'm seeing is the unquenchable courage that each one of us has had to muster up within ourselves in order to take the dive into this relative field and take the chances that we have to take experimenting with the process of manifestation into the field of the relative. Every time anything is manifested, it means that something else wasn't manifested, right? If it's blue, then it's not orange. If it's pink, then it's not green. As this is at the gross material level of creation. And definitely all the ancestors are online with this. It feels like we've got all the ancestors and all the past lives online with this all at the same time. So that's very good. And the next thing I'm feeling is a cradling of everyone's soul. And there's this huge, huge master, ascended master, godlike being who is gently cradling everyone's soul. And this is not an unfamiliar source of creation being, God of creation. The cradling feels like a swing, Krishna's swing. The baby was being rocked back and forth. Krishna's being rocked back and forth between the absolute and the relative field of creation. And that's like really soothing. And these are the energies. We're looking at the energies in the beginnings of creation. And the flow back and forth is happening. And it's a very, very soothing, comforting flow. back and forth from the absolute to the relative. And what I'm seeing is the entrance of a very viscous kind of light energy coming in. And here I'm not using a color to describe it, I'm experiencing it more as a feeling. But there's this lovely like oil, like this nice viscous oil that's moving into this area. And it's moving all the way up into that gap between those two parts of the physiology. This is why we need to go in here to this more unbounded part of the self, to find this beautiful light, lovely, like yummy, goldeny, honey, like, but more oily, like sesame oil, like material, not exactly sesame, but anyway, here it goes. And it's moving up through the subtle levels of the physiology and into that point between the astral body and the emotional body. And what it's doing is it's allowing this primordial sense of being totally protected and totally safe and totally blessed at every point in the manifesting process. As we're going through this, we're constantly, continually manifesting our reality at each point. As it moves into that process, is connecting our highest God presence part of ourself, is integrating what this oily, sort of very permeable material is doing, is it's starting to connect what we think of as ourself in this body, in this life, the four lower or more manifest levels of the physiology, with the more eternal side, the more subtle levels of the physiology that we associate with our eternal self. So what we're doing is we're kind of creating some integration in that gap and gently softening it and allowing for a frictionless flow of knowledge from within, self-referral loops of knowledge from the divine level of each person, their divine being, through the subtle levels, layers of their individuality, and then through to more manifest levels of the physiology. And I'm definitely feeling, again, for some people, there's some clearing still happening up here in the head area and Aranyaka chakra area. A little bit more discordant feelings and fear are being released from right there. That's okay, that's okay. Oh, and okay, now we've got it coming down into the throat chakra area too, 5th chakra, right there also. And this often happens because there's a tendency sometimes to hold things back. Like you want to say something, or you wanted to tell someone that they hurt your feelings, or you wanted to whatever, but you didn't. And so it got a little stuck right there. Or even in this case, because we're doing this as an internal loop, communicating with one's own self. So here is where divine truth comes in. And divine truth, I experience divine truth as one of the great mother goddesses of creation, who, she's just shining her light. That again, it's all about awareness. Awareness shines in so many different ways, from so many different angles, from great big huge angles to very, very tiny, minute, hair splitty angles. But that awareness of divine truth is shining into the 5th chakra of everybody in the group. And she's just helping to unblock areas. And for some people, these are vicious cycles, habits, and memory patterns, and 6 aspects, and Maya in this area are clearing out as she's shining in this light of her awareness, beaming in her sweet, pure, perfect God energy into that area, to allow us to really, really self-communicate in a way. And guys, I'm so grateful to you for even asking for this, because I wasn't expecting it, but this is great for me too, to self-communicate at a whole new level, completely, stellar level of really, truly, profoundly knowing exactly what's going on with you, exactly. And that has to work its way all the way out to the physical level, particularly for those of you listening who have physical concerns. This is important for you, because ultimately the body is not trying to hurt you, ever. The body is communicating in the only way it knows to communicate, which is to give comfort when it's feeling good and give discomfort when it's feeling bad. And it's got its own reasons. And by opening up these deeper inner channels of communication, it's going to make it a lot easier to know what the body and the mind and the being want at any given moment, without them having to, like the body have to push itself over the edge by hurting itself or getting hurt or something. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to anymore. The communication is there. And again, we need that love energy getting in there. So for those of you particularly who are having physical complaints, we're pulling in a lot of the body's activating up some of those nice, yummy love rasayanas, those love medicines, and bringing that up into the gap as well, anybody who needs that, so that that flow across the gap, the flow of communication is always a flow of deepest, tenderest love, sweetest intentions, just the most gentle and empathetic. Communication, again, is about reflection. One part is the sender and one part is the receiver. And memory is involved across the gap. Memory is involved. Oh, I see. I see. So one of the things that's happening is a clearing of memory. I have to look at this. Hang on. Something. Okay. So what appears to be happening, very interesting, guys, is at the celestial level of the physiology, but in the spirit world. So that means all of us, we're in our physical bodies now, but we go into a physical body, we go out into the non-physical, we birth again physical, out into the non-physical, like that. It's a back and forth process. And in the spirit world, our bodies in the spirit world differ depending on basically karma, or different points at which people enter the spirit world, and then how they progress in that field. So some people enter the spirit world and at the end of their life, and they maintain a body that has more materialness to it. Like if this is the absolute here and this is the relative here, and right now in our physical bodies, this whole range belongs to us. But then some people pass out of their bodies and they go like this, and they stay at just this really deep abstract level until they decide to go back to another body. And some people, they maintain physiologies that have more concreteness to them. Sometimes, some people even almost to quite concrete if they're having trouble letting go of that relative material desires. And thank you. The masters are doing some work right now with regards to that, because there's a big flow of energy that's taking place right now. And so a lot of healing is being done not only for everybody's spirit bodies and all the ancestors that are in their spirit form at this time who are blessing us. Thank you to the ancestors. Right, so I'm seeing this flooding of energy into the spirit realm of creation and into our spirit bodies, and it's the reflective, the smriti. The smriti, we're looking at the memory aspect in the spirit bodies, and how it is that when we're in our spirit body, we remember everything. We remember all the past lives in all complete detail, and the whole course of the story of the being and so forth. And then when we go into our physical bodies, we tend to forget. And so what's being examined here, and it's very interesting, I'm seeing it being examined even by the lords of karma are examining this. They have their own opinions about this particular healing that's taking place, but the principle of allowing the smriti to resonate more clearly, that smriti or memory, can we clear at the point where the smriti is in the physiology, it's a celestial body level, right? And if we cleared in the spirit bodies and the physical bodies at the same time, I'm just asking the masters, I'm asking the being of all of you who is organizing this, if it clears at all of them at the same time, it would open up that whole field for everybody, yes? I'm just looking at it. Everybody is receiving in their own way, their own degrees, but I'm actually watching that happen. That's what's happening. The smriti occurs in this silent space, like a seed, a very, very, very deep level of the celestial body. Right, right. So the reflection is clear, and that everyone can get this ability to know inside themselves what is going on with others based on how the impression falls into their finest awareness, and then the impression that makes, it makes a little impression like a memory, and then it reflects back out again. Okay, it's still going. The energies are still flowing. They're still flowing. And baby's laughing. Baby's laughing because baby knows all this stuff. This is like kindergarten for the baby. Very nice. Anything else here in this healing? Oh, I'm also feeling a really beautiful, appears to be very interesting happening. Never seen this before. It appears to be an energetic flow in the cord of light for everybody in the group. Oh, that makes sense. Okay, guys, this makes a lot of sense because our astral bodies, we're working in this area, right? We're still in this area. This is the basic area that's clearing between our eternal self and our individual in this body self. This astral body is shaped it's shaped like a torus, if anybody knows what that shape is, which is kind of like a donut or an apple-ish sort of shape. And there's this cord or meridian of light, of being that runs through the body from the crown down into Mother Earth. And that's the channel by which the imbalances are released from the system. And 1% of that inner cord, we've talked about that before, is that internal compass. I said 10% last time, but that was incorrect. Correction on the last webinar, that was 1%. Anyway, there's this, what I'm feeling is a very, very nice, very comfortable, it's that rocking, that rocking of the cradle that we talked about before, Krishna's cradle, the gods have this, like it's just this gentle rocking that takes place at the very primordial level of creation, which is a reflection of the flow from the absolute to the relative, back and forth, back and forth. So that is sort of centering itself in this cord of light. And instead of being just a straight back and forth, have you ever seen a sine wave? The sine waves are expressions of sound waves. Like if I go, bah, and then it was recorded, you see this, you can create this little wave that goes like that. Anyway, sine wave is just like a pure wave that goes like that without any little bumps in it. But if you take a sine wave and you turn it on end, you get a shape like this. In other words, it looks when it's on its side like rocking back and forth, but it's not rocking back and forth. It's really going in a circle. So this is what's going on inside the cord. There's some kind of this very lovely kind of cyclic circling back and forth. And what that tells me is that we have, in the process of this healing, we have opened up a channel of purity in the core of everyone watching this video. Everyone and whoever will watch this video. And the ancestors, are the ancestors getting it too? Everybody gets? Baby's making sure the ancestors get it. Investment right there. Great healers. Great healers. Thank you. Anyway, yeah, so this, when imbalances, as I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, are moved out of the subtle levels of the physiology or subtle levels, and they get into this cord of light, they swirl down, they make this nice swirly motion. And I've seen that happen more times than I could count when imbalances are being released. But what I am seeing now is this beautiful, sweet, comforting, just kind of rocking in that cord for everybody. And what that means is that the imbalances don't stop being released. That what's happened is all of us, me too, all of our energy fields have kind of come up to a new level of functioning a new, more efficient level of functioning. I'm thinking because of the activation that we did on the DNA earlier makes this possible for us. Because I'm not sure everybody in like the whole world could get this right now. I'm asking and I'm getting, no, the whole world can't get this right now. But in a minute we could do some counts of how many people can. But the point is that if that's happening in the cord at all times, that means absolutely literally any place within the entire field of your being, from the absolute to the relative, any little imbalances are sitting, those are just gently, spontaneously, naturally being worked out of the system in a kind of continuous way. And based on Alice's question at the beginning about integration, what that means then is there must also be, I'm inferring, this is healing through inference, right? That there must also be continuous integration of God energy as well. And the answer is coming back as a big yes. Yes, because this gentle rocking has both parts in it, they're saying to me. This is directly from the masters right now. That it has both the purifying, and it's causing a continuous, very, very gentle, very soothing release of emotional and mental and subtler imbalances from the system. And at the same time, because the rocking is so gentle, it's bringing in comfort and wholeness and sweetness and tenderness all in the same stroke. All one great process happening. The integration is part of the whole process. It doesn't end. Thank you. Thank you. That was totally amazing. I'd like to thank all the masters who've helped on that account. I'd like to thank the baby. Awesome. You are awesome. You guys, as God presence is awesome. That was amazing. Okay, that blew my mind. You guys are awesome. All right. Another question has come. Thank you, those who ask questions. If a person has a tight or sore muscle, and then they put their attention on it, will it automatically purify the stress, or what would you recommend they focus on? Great question. Okay, so thank you. I really appreciate that question because it's really concrete, and that last healing was really abstract. So it's nice to bring it up to the concrete level. Okay, and I'm just getting also the message from one of my guys on my team here. Hang on, that I just got the 5-minute warning from one of the, thank you very much for that. So when the body feels pain or discomfort, the body is communicating to us in the way it knows to let us know that it has something that it needs to change. Now, there will always be, when we're looking at the sore muscle itself, you could say, well, or like I broke a bone several years ago really badly right in this arm. I could say, well, obviously, this broken bone was because I got my arm caught in a piece of machinery and it broke it all up into pieces. But underneath that broken into pieces, all that we could blame just the machine was what was causing the broken bone. We could just blame the machine on a very gross material level. But if I look at that at a deeper level, I have to realize that there was karma caught in that as well. Anytime we have physical pain, there's going to be karma connected to and associated with that imbalance, pretty much always. And the karma will be connected to some series of actions or events that led up to that happening, that particular problem occurring. So often the softer tissue, when it's crying, is doing so because there are discordant feelings in there. So if it's muscles, looking, and it is my perception that there are discordant feelings connected to a sore muscle. There are discordant feelings in there. And then let's see if that really answered the question. The tension on it. automatically purify stress. Right. So yes, putting the attention on it will begin the purification process. But the purification process is a lot like peeling the layers of an onion skins off of an onion. You know, you go and you go, oh, well, obviously the muscle's sore. I think I strained it. You know, I remember yesterday I lifted something that was too heavy. You know, but then you have to look a little deeper than that and say, well, you know, I realize that there, you know, just as an example, the person could look and say, well, you know, I realize there are a lot of times when I'm not listening to myself, I'm not listening to my body, and I'm doing more than is comfortable for me. And so then if that's a pattern and it's been happening a lot, there'll come a time when the body will go, you know, that pattern's bugging me just a little bit too much. I'm going to pull you back and make you rest and make you come away from pushing yourself so hard all the time. You know, and then underneath that, you can find it's like a detective job or something. You keep looking to deeper and deeper clues. Underneath that is, well, why am I always pushing myself? Well, you know, I feel like I have to work hard, and I have to do what people say, and I have to please people, and I have to, you know, deny my own desire to rest or play or have fun in order to do what people expect of me. So then that means there's expectations and judgments down there. Well, who's putting expectations on you? And it'll almost always come back to the fact that we're experiencing that in ourselves somewhere. I've got expectations on myself. I feel like, well, I should, you know, I need to work hard and I need to earn my way in this world, and I can't just sit around and do nothing, you know. It's not fun to sit around and do nothing anyway. But the truth is that all of you have earned your rights to be here simply by being. And babies are a great example of that, because babies don't really do a lot of work around the house, but they are so beautiful and so wonderful and so attractive and so precious and so beloved. If a mommy walks into a grocery store, at least in Fairfield, I don't know where you guys are, but how it is out there, but I know in Fairfield, if a mommy walks into everybody's grocery store with a baby, you know, all the antennas go off all over the whole store. Oh, there's a baby, oh, there's a baby, and everybody's excited. What's the baby doing? It's not bringing in the bucks, and it's not cleaning the house, and it's not doing anything, you know, to make itself extra attractive. It's just being. So your being alone is enough. Thank you. All right. So on that note of being is enough, thank you all very, very, very much for being with me today. Thank you for your incredible, brilliant, the light of the God presence shining through all of you and through your amazing ancestors, the survivors of this earth. Thank you to the mother of all creation for allowing this to even happen in the first place. I am so grateful for the healings that we were able to do today. More to come in future webinars. Thank you to everyone. It's been really beautiful. Quick word coming up. The next one is on wealth, and we've got it at 2 times. There's an evening time to accommodate people in China, Hawaii, Australia, and there's a morning time the next day to accommodate people in Europe, Africa, Middle East. And we already have quite a lot of people signed up for those, but it would be really wonderful. You know, it's always wonderful to have a large, coherent group of people joining in. It's so much fun. So thank you all for being with me today. And I send you my love, and I'm just grateful that everyone came. And I look forward to being connected with you through a lot of the other social means, either webinars or there's lots of other on Facebook and blah, blah, blah. That's the advertisement. Okay, you know the advertisement. It's not important. I love you. That's all. That's all that matters, is that I love you. Thank you, everyone. I'm posting your questions and I'm posting your love. There's lots of love in here, so it's all done. And we'll call that done. And we did record, and there will be a recording being made available to everybody. The whole webinar, as far as I know, will not be posted, but we may post excerpts in the next month or something. We may post little bits and pieces. All right. Thank you. Thank you to all. I'm going to sign off and close. Oh, everybody's saying thank you. I'm going to sign off and close the webinar. Bye. End meeting.